Hey everyone, welcome back to Tactical Magic. This is Molly Mandelberg, your host, and I'm excited to be bringing a more magical, metaphysical episode to you this week. As you all know, hopefully you've been listening along, this show vacillates between some strategic, marketing, business type of topics, and also the far end of the woo spectrum with spirituality, metaphysics, healing, transformation, inspiration. And I came across this magical duo that I was very excited to invite on the show today for a more mystical, magical, metaphysical conversation, hopefully from an angle that we can all relate to and connect with, because they consider themselves skeptical metaphysicians. So hang tight, we'll be right back. It's not just about mastering technology. It's not just about brand or messaging. It's not just about making more money. It's about showing up in a big way so your people can find you. This is about bringing your most wild and authentic self into the hustle and grind. Welcome to Tactical Magic, a business strategies podcast for the warrior goddess entrepreneur. Awesome. So like Mulder from the X-Files, we want to believe these two have embarked on a journey of discovery. They've talked to people deeply entrenched in the spiritual, metaphysical, mental health, and self-help worlds. They've thrown themselves into weird and wonderful experiences and share them through their podcast, Skeptical Metaphysician, in an effort to find the trick to self-growth. So welcome to the show, Will Rodriguez and Karen Endsley.
Hey, God, you make it sound so cool.
I know.
I'm
Awesome.
hoping we can live up to it.
Yeah, for those of you just listening
No
also
pressure.
and not watching the video, they have this beautiful like space backgrounds that you guys are in. It's very on brand.
We've evolved to here.
Yes.
If you watch the early episodes, what you'll see behind us is a bed. We thought that was off-brand, so we figured we'd up the game a little bit.
It's a different show when you have a bed in the background.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Awesome. So tell me just like a little bit about the Skeptical Metaphysicians. What's the show about? What are you guys into? How did it happen? Share a little bit of the story.
Well, the show, it's actually called the Skeptic Metaphysicians, in case someone's looking for it. It really was launched after, there's really no other way to say it. I had what some would consider an existential crisis. I had a nervous breakdown in which I learned that I was not at all the person that I thought I had been all along. And in my quest to try to fix all the things that I was doing that was so heinous, I went into mental health space and found that was super helpful, but not entirely what I needed. So then I remembered back in my 20s, which was just a couple of years ago, I had studied metaphysics. So Reiki energy healing, past life regressions, near-death experiences, things like that. And I started diving into those, trying to see if that was what I needed. And actually, it's thanks to an old friend. I stumbled on an old book that I read back in my 20s called Conversations with God, that when I picked that up and started reading it again, it reminded me of all the things that I really wanted to be. So this show was really an effort for me to explore different modalities so that some of them are going to resonate stronger than others for me and for anyone listening. So this way we have an opportunity for people to come and listen to different types of modalities and see, well, this one doesn't really resonate with me, so maybe this one will. Because each episode really, for the most part, focuses on a specific modality. It doesn't always end up that way. The conversation inevitably goes in all kinds of weird and wacky and fun directions. But we do dive into a specific modality each episode.
And I think for us, one of the great things about our show is that we kind of straddle that line. We're not, our background, we both work in TV. And Will has been in corporate America for his whole career. So what, like 10 years?
Thank you, Karen.
You like that, right? I worked in real estate investment. I was a teacher. And so neither one of us are like what you would think about when you think about someone who's really into the woo. So I think a lot of people that are interested in this, but really don't know or aren't comfortable with diving in can relate to us because we're kind of average work people, but we also are involved in this as well. So I think it makes it easier and more relatable to a lot of people.
Yeah, it's more accessible for the people who are dipping their toe into the woo and aren't like considering themselves full-blown witches yet or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. I also like that emphasis on sort of the permission that's laid into that, knowing that some modalities resonate with other people and that's not wrong or bad. It doesn't make any more valid or true than the others. And the more that I've played with different modalities, the more that I've noticed it's all the same magic. It's just a different lens through which we're viewing it or talking about it or practicing it. And so there's a lot of, I like that spin on it, that it's beautiful. When people come, they're dousing for their own pathway, and it might not be the same as other people they know, or it might not be the same as what you guys as the host chose for your path, but there's so much out there that can help us, and that's such a cool thing to be able to showcase.
Absolutely. And it's funny because Karen and I talk about it all the time. The fact that the more we do the show, the more we realize that everyone's saying the same thing. They're just using different words for it. So as long as you're on a path, it doesn't matter what path you're on, just get on a path that feels right for you. And that's the right path. I mean,
and while we are learning and examining and questioning things, we're not here to debunk anything or anyone. So people come, they tell us their story, what they've learned, what they can do, their gifts, and we just want to hear about it and explore and provide other people the opportunity to learn about things they might never even have imagined existed.
Yeah. What about for you, Karen? What are some of the modalities or tools that you found most helpful?
I really, strangely enough, because I didn't think this would be the one, but the one that has worked with me most was breathwork. We had a great guy come in and kind of teach us about it. And then he led us through a session of warrior breath work where we just kind of, we're each in our different room with the computer and the music and the breathing. And it was incredible. And it just raises your energy and your vibration so much that when I finished, I just had this like feeling of, I don't know, glee. I mean, it's hard to describe, but just this joy, just like pouring out of every inch of my body. And that was such a beautiful feeling, and one that I did not expect. I thought I'll be relaxed and I'll be peaceful after this, but I just felt like pumped. It was awesome.
Yeah. It was so drastic that it forced you out of your body.
Yeah.
Right. It was that strong of an effect.
Yeah.
And I wasn't expecting that or trying for that or anything. I was just like, all right, let's see what this is, which is what we do with all of them.
Talk about a low cost of entry too for modalities. Breathwork is like the most free thing you can try.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And I mean, one of my friends who's a big meditator calls it getting high on your own supply, but it's like oxygen is just so readily available, and to breathe deep with like guidance to go to those places. It's really powerful and really cleansing too.
It's that buzz, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird because you don't expect it, right? Just breathing is going to get you some spiritual awakening. You just don't think of that way, but it sure is. It's a certain rhythm of breath and a certain intention and focus that you have when you're doing it, along with the music and the
drum beats.
You almost go into a trance very quickly. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. I'm curious, as the journey of running the Skeptic Metaphysicians podcast has gone along, and as you guys have danced with different modalities and like learned more about them, have you noticed much of a shift in your own lives, like your own well-being, your existence? Like what's changed for you?
Will started this podcast based on what he told you about this breakdown that he had. And in a year and a half, I can tell you he's a different man. He has become so much more at peace with himself. He is open, so less judgy. And it's really changed him. I mean, he is a much better version of himself.
Yeah, I agree. I think that when I first started this road, I was very firmly ensconced in the ego. I have little sticky notes all over my workspace that says you don't have to be right, and your attachments are the source of all your problems, because I was such an angry guy my entire life. I was so angry and so judgy. I had the sense of false, elevated sense of self-worth that I learned was fear, was me just dealing with the fear of everything, of being taken advantage of dying, of all these different things. And through the course of our exploration in the show, all the different modalities, all the different people that we've talked to, I've realized that life is just so much nicer when you just let go, you release, when you're not so tied to your ego, when you truly just trust that there's a plan and that there's something beyond this three-dimensional world that we're living in. And it has brought, and with me as well, I started meditating, and it's just brought this sense of peace and well-being into my life that I'm not all there yet. I will be the first one to say I'm still pretty egocentric in a lot of ways sometimes, but I've gone, I saw that, Karen, but I've gone a long way, to Karen's point. So,
yeah. More lightness, more ease, more like allowance. This theme has been coming up a lot in different conversations and in my own work with my own modalities on myself too lately, which is this idea of control, and that we like desire control because it makes us feel safer from all those unknowns, like you said, like dying or failing or being taken advantage of or being harmed or whatever. And so we think we need to like become more rigid to control our surroundings. And that actually is like not just choking off possibilities and opportunities, but it's choking like the life of ourselves off from what else is possible in this reality. So there's something so beautiful about recognizing that we don't ever really have control, and that to give up the need or let it go, that like deep set patterning of needing to find control or have it or choose or create it or whatever actually opens up doorways to so much more to show up.
And it's like the difference between black and white TV back in the day to color.
Oh, wow. That's a good analogy.
The world is so full of color.
Absolutely. Now into 3D and virtual reality space and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, when you think about it, the impetus, the reason why we call it the show the Skeptic Metaphysicians, is because I've always come at it from a space of pragmatism, right? I need to have proof. I need to be able to see it, touch it, feel it, taste it. I need to know that's real so that I'm not being taken advantage of. See that there's a theme there. And the initial journey was really about exploring these modalities so that I could find something that could finally help me to know for sure that this stuff is real and not some figment of my imagination or people's imaginations. Through the course of our explorations, spoiler alert, I did find it, right? And it was in Reiki energy healing, when I felt the energy, the tangible energy coming through my hands. That's the thing that finally said to me, okay, I definitely feel this. This is a marked difference from it was before. If this is real, then what else out there could possibly be real? And then the show became changed from one of trying to find proof to one trying to find what else is out there.
That's very fun. Yeah. And there is so much. And I'll say, being one of those DLOS, we call them, does lots of stuff. I'm a like learning modality junkie. And I think a lot of the people who end up in the metaphysical space are that too, because it takes some trying of things to find the thing that really makes you come alive, or your heart like sing. And like you said, with that breath work, just get to a place of bliss when you're using it. That I think any of those modalities, someone gets that feeling from, but not necessarily everyone is going to bring it to us. And so sometimes we end up with a lot of different tools or skill sets before that thing really rings true.
For sure. Yeah.
And we've had so many different interviews and so many different guests and learned so many different modalities. And some of them you're like, oh gosh, that makes perfect sense. Like manifestation with Benji. But then there's some where you're like, that's interesting. But again, we're not here to debunk or to judge. It's just, let's hear your story and maybe it will resonate with someone.
Yeah, totally. And there's, going to be those ones that are a little bit more niche or So I'm curious, because you've been having these conversations with these people, and I'm sure all of them had a journey similar to yours, Will, where they sought it out or they found it because they needed it themselves. What are some of the common threads you've noticed of what it takes to choose to walk that path or find yourself on that journey and move towards something metaphysical instead of something, Western medicine or tangible to support them?
I think the thing I've learned the most about all of this is the fact that we do indeed create our own reality. So, and every reality is just as valid as another. So before my well, let's face it, my spiritual awakening, the actual awakening itself was sudden and abrupt and ugly and uncomfortable. But then my attuning to what I needed to support that awakening was very, very gradual. And prior to that, I was very much in the world of, no, this stuff doesn't exist. This isn't real. So for me, it very much did not exist. The universe is saying, okay, he doesn't want to see it. I'm not going to show it to him. So the more that I opened myself up to the possibilities that there are things out there that are beyond what we can see and feel and hear and touch, the more the universe says, oh, okay, he might be ready for this. And now my reality started shifting and transforming into one that was more open to the mysteries of the universe that were not open to me before. So my thoughts is that as much as I would love to reach out and grab someone's hand and pull them along and say, come with me on this journey, the only people that are going to do that are the people that are ready to open their minds and see it. Because if they're not, no matter how much cajoling I'm going to do, how much prodding, how many kicks in the butt I give them, they're not going to come. They're going to think I'm crazy. My best friend, who's with us now, as a matter of fact, total skeptic. You think I'm a skeptic? This guy is a skeptic. In fact, we're talking about having him on the show to be the skeptic so that he can actually be the one to say, oh, that's not true, right? But he knows we're interviewing a lot of people while he's here, and he rolls his eyes when we talk about, oh, who did you interview today? Oh, we just did astral projection. He was teaching us how to astral project, and oh my gosh, it was incredible. He just doesn't get it. He doesn't buy it, doesn't believe it, and actually thinks we're losing our minds in a certain extent, but he still loves us for it. So it's all good.
Yeah. And I think kind of going back to your question, like how do people get to this path? There are so many people like Will that have had this kind of breakdown that has led them to find this, to begin this journey. But there are also the people that have always had this. And the interesting fact about them is that they never realized it was different. You know, I grew up 6 years old speaking to ghosts, or, you know, playing with the Ouija board in, you know, grade school or whatever. And they've always had this. What's interesting to me, and it makes perfect sense, is we don't hear from them as often as I think we hear from the people that have had something big happen. And I think that's because this has impacted their lives so much that they really feel that need to get out there and shout it out to everyone. Look, there's so much more. This can help you like it helped me. Yeah. But we do find both of those in the people that we interview, both of those types of awakenings.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I think it seems less, like, oh my God, I need to share this and talk about it if you grew up believing in that. But then there's also sometimes more of a foundational understanding of it in those people also.
Right. Well, thank God for the quantum physics, right? Which allows someone like me to wrap their head around stuff. And that's kind of the beauty of our show, because you have two completely different perspectives on these modalities. You have the scientific person who's coming at it from a pragmatic point of view, where I need to find a way to wrap my head around this for me to be able to accept it. And then you have Karen, who already knows it's real, and instead is asking the questions about going beyond what the pragmatic questions are asking. So it's really fun.
Yeah, when Will says he needs to see it, touch it, and feel it, he's like talking about feeling it with his hands. With me, I feel it inside my body. I feel it in my head. I feel it in my soul. So it's a different type of feeling, which ultimately ends up being the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think women are also more programmed to trust that intuitive knowing side of ourselves than most, than many men are invited to in their lives. Definitely. So cool. So you guys have been doing this show for like a year and a half. Have you found any interest in like adopting any of these modalities to facilitate yourselves?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Quick answer is yes. All of them. Every one
Most
of them.
Most of them. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I don't believe that I will ever be a channeler or a trance medium or anything like that. I don't believe I'm psychic, or I don't think I'll probably be able to astral project at some point. I know, Karen, you think I am, and I love you for it.
I mean, with that attitude, it's not likely, but.
Right.
Right. I just talked about my reality, right? Here I am calling myself a hypocrite.
Pretty specifically there.
Absolutely. But yeah, I adopted meditation very hardcore. I meditate every day, because if I don't, I'm a different man.
Oh, you don't want to be around me.
Me too.
Right.
It's night and day.
Right. Yep. Every day. I did a past life regression, which was life-changing for me. It explained a lot about who I am as a father, for example. So that was incredible. I mentioned earlier, I'm a Reiki practitioner now. I'm a level 2. I think Karen is really interested in learning energy healing and breath work. And we've interviewed people that are really non-intuitive when it comes to the topic of our show. We interviewed people that have made conscious contact with UFOs and ETs because it fits in the show, because she feels that they are spiritual beings or trying to help us to ascend. We've talked to people that have had near-death experiences and claim they went to hell, and there's a reason why she went to hell specifically. We've talked to people that believe that they are the light where everyone goes through that person to get to the other side. We've talked to so many different people in so many different modalities or thought processes that I would love to adopt most of them because they're fascinating to me. The problem for me specifically, I'm just unmotivated. I mean,
there's probably a modality to help with that.
There probably is.
Sure there is. We're going to find it.
Well, we're seeing a hypnotist next week.
We are. We'll see. We're going to interview a hypnotist.
For sure. I used to do hypnosis.
Oh, okay.
Awesome. Yeah. We're really looking forward to that because I've heard a lot about the theta state and I'm really interested in feeling it. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have you started seeing clients as a practitioner of Reiki now?
No, I've not.
On yourself and
I've not monetized it. I don't know if I ever will. I adopted it just because I wanted to know whether or not it was real. I wanted to feel it for myself, and I did. And now I do practice it on Karen. I do it on my daughter. I do it on friends, and sometimes when people have headaches or whatever, I'll help them with that. I don't know how comfortable I would be monetizing it, just because even though I know it's real, I'm still just a little bit skeptic.
Well, then you'd be seen as that guy. And then that's a whole nother identity crisis thing to go through, which I totally understand.
Yeah.
And also we love our work, like what our careers and our jobs. And it's so much fun that I think if you started, Will, doing this kind of for a living, it would take away from that. And I know you're so good at the TV stuff. So.
Oh, well, thank you, Karen.
Yeah, that's a valid point too, is if you already have a passion for the work that you're doing, then it doesn't have to become your business or your life or your job.
Yeah. That's not to say that our passion for this can't become our business.
That's true.
We're actually actively talking about producing something television wise that would be a television version of the Skeptic Metaphysician, where we actually go out to the different practitioners and interview them and go through the experiences and really talk about it through a practical perspective.
And I think our role is more not so much being a Reiki practitioner or a channeler. It's more of spreading the message.
Yeah.
And helping people, find their path and giving that information out. So I think that's where, if we end up, doing something career-wise with this, I think that's probably the path it would take.
That would be so awesome. I mean, that seems like the show has already written itself. You just take the podcast and go see the same people and make them episodes of a TV show. I think the world could use that, and that probably Gaia, that network, is a good connect for that.
Very, very interesting that you mentioned Gaia, because I am actively trying to manifest a way to reach out to Gaia and talk to them about producing this very show for Gaia. It's a perfect fit for us.
Fantastic. I mean, I see it happening. You guys have just spoken it into existence. And like you said, you create your reality.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're actively trying to do that. So anyone who's listening, if you have any contact at Gaia, please reach out.
Yeah, definitely. There probably is somebody out there. I might have a roundabout connection to something like that for you. So we'll talk after the show.
Okay. Wow. That sounds great. Yeah. Thank you.
So, I mean, so the people who are coming to listen to Skeptic Metaphysician, who's a good fit to go listen to that show? I mean, I think we've already piqued people's interest. That there's a lot of different modalities to cover. I know a lot of people listening to this podcast probably have some of their modalities already, or they found some things that work for them. But who's an ideal candidate to share this show with?
People who are curious, people who want to know what else is out there. What's it like? Is it woo? What is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we our tagline is Metaphysics 101, because ideally it's for the people that either are interested in metaphysics but don't know where to start, or know about it and aren't 100% sure they are on board with all the woo and all that kind of stuff, and really to hear it from a pragmatic point of view to really allow themselves to go into it.
We had one of our reviewers summed it up perfectly and said that it was a great way to learn about all of this stuff without having to step into an uncomfortable, metaphysical bookstore.
Yeah.
Where people are going to ask you questions, and I'm like, well, that's exactly what it's for.
Right. And now we're talking about changing it to Metaphysics 205 or 204 or something, because we have advanced so far now. We're talking, like I just mentioned, the UFOs. We're talking about UFOs. We're talking about more advanced modalities that maybe the neophyte metaphysics person might be a little put off by. Right, because we do go far into the woo in some of these things now. We just had the astral projection interview we just talked about. He went really far and nowhere where I thought he would go, and it was fantastic. So we would probably talk to people. We already have a story of someone who astral projected for the first time and how that came about with her. And now we have this gentleman who comes on to talk to us about how it happens, why it happens, and by the way, here are the steps to do it. So that was really interesting.
That's awesome. I used to be really into that stuff and lucid dreaming and practicing trying to astral project in college. So I know people are like able to go and search for Skeptic Metaphysician, but what's the best place to learn more in addition to, do you have a website? Are you on social? What are the places people can come and follow you?
Yeah, hands down, the very best place to find us is skepticmetaphysician.com. Singular, because I got the domain before I brought Karen on as my co-host. But it could still be found, skepticmetaphysician.com. There you can access the show itself. You can subscribe to the show directly from that site. You can watch the video versions of our show there. You can subscribe or follow us on social media. You can send us voicemails and emails. You can leave us reviews. Everything is, it's like a one-stop shop for all things Skeptic Metaphysician.
And if you become a member, a lot of our guests will oftentimes offer discounts to people who reach out to them through us. So on some of their services. So it's great for members.
Yeah. Save some money on your metaphysical services by going through you guys. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Awesome. So one of the questions I like to ask at the end of every episode is, what are the last words of wisdom you'd want to leave people with? So I'd love to hear that from each of you individually.
You go first, Phil.
I think probably the biggest words of wisdom that I could possibly give to anyone is be open to anything. Don't close yourself off, because your closing off is what it's doing is it's limiting your ability to be amazed. So the more open you are to possibilities, you don't have to believe it completely, but at least feel, hey, I would love to learn and see if it's what's out there. And by opening yourself up as much as you can, that's when the magic's going to start happening for you.
And I would say pretty similar. Don't be afraid. We have that fear, and it can block your vision, and you miss the beauty. So try to let go of that fear, and you'll really enjoy your life so much more.
Awesome. Very good advice. I'm so grateful that I got to have you guys on the show, and definitely everybody out there, make sure to go to skepticmetaphysician.com and check out the show. Make sure you subscribe, follow them on Instagram or social media or wherever they're hanging out. And yeah, thank you guys so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you. It's been an honor.
Yeah. And thank you everyone out there for listening. Don't forget, you can go to wildheartsraiseup.com if you want to see more about this podcast, and tacticalmagicpodcast.com and all of that. And whatever happens, keep asking big questions and taking bold action, because you are here for a reason. Bye.